say a special good morning to our listeners, special good morning to our viewers. Welcome. It's another edition of To The Point. It's Wednesday, the 25th day of February 2026. Those of you via social media platforms, good morning to you, whatever part of the world you are at. Right now, let me say good morning to you. We know there are some folks in some part of the world who will prefer to be in Grenada right now. Let me say good morning to my guest this morning, the Honorable Redhead. Good morning to you, sir. Good morning to you, and welcome. I know it's kind of a last minute you popping in on me this morning, but your presence here is always welcome. Always welcome.
Thank you very much, GT, and good morning to you and the GBN family and all the listeners, both home and abroad.
All right. So let's see how we could get this process rolling up this morning. We certainly will have lots to talk about as usual.
Yes.
Get into our conversation part of it. We're going to, of course, have the opportunity to invite our listeners and viewers to chime in on us this morning. Conversation, of course, with questions relating to our conversation this morning. I want to start this morning's conversation in reference to recent activities that is taking place in Grenada, in reference to, domestic violence and so forth. And it's a concern that is across the board, I would say, for every Grenadian.
Yeah.
Whether your political spectrum you belong to, it's a concern.
Yeah.
I want to speak to you from not only from a personal point of view, but maybe from a party point of view also. How does the National Democratic Congress, who's also the governing party here in Grenada, how do they feel in relation to this? It's heartbreaking at times.
Yes.
When we see the level of violence, especially against women. Women is somebody that, as men, we're supposed to cherish. As much as you cherish your mom and everything, having that love for a woman it goes. I always say, if you're a woman, it's like viewing your mom. Even though she's not there, she should have to take that little place there.
Yeah.
How does it feel? The message that should be going out there, especially to our men, who seems to be the one that is more involved in committing those particular crimes, I'm not saying men are getting their little touch too, but it seems to be a little bit more prevalent around men to women. What is that message that we should be going out there, especially to men who get in their mindset on that level?
Certainly, as an administration, we are mindful of the challenges. I think Honourable Prime Minister addressed it at Parliament. We stand by the sentiments expressed by Prime Minister and leader of the NDC. We believe that a comprehensive, all-inclusive community-type initiative and effort, or national effort, is required to rid this problem. We will continue to make that call for the approach. We will continue as an administration to advocate, lobby for the improvement in laws, legislations, programs, etc., that can aid in benefiting not just the issue of gender-based violence, particularly against women, but those certainly against children in particular as well. We certainly want to highlight that it is ongoing, and we want to continue advocating for, as best as possible, radical legislations that help to empower, that help to build, that help to enhance our capacity to be able to combat this issue.
I want to tap into this. It's also a little bit of concern. I'm not sure how deep you want to go. The Prime Minister's message in Parliament had some level of misinterpretation.
Right.
Of course, folks was thinking, because I guess folks heard what they want to hear. I'm not sure if you could break it down a wee bit, and probably in your interpretation of it, being in Parliament and listened. What was that message the Prime Minister was trying to bring across?
Yeah, well, certainly, and in any way we can just clear that up, what are real or imagined in terms of the concern. The Prime Minister made it absolutely clear that just by the legislations themselves, we can't solve anything. There are current legislations in place to help prevent this, but it still occurs. So the message was deep, and deeper than passing of legislation. And as I mentioned in my presentation, we need something more powerful than new laws. We need the community to raise that child and to protect that child and to protect that young girl or the next victim potentially, and to stop those perpetrators who are in a sense being cultured by their environment. They themselves going through abuse growing up, and so they are turning out criminals themselves. So it is an all-inclusive effort that is required, essentially what the Prime Minister was saying, to be able to combat this. And so the confusion, really, I couldn't imagine it to say that he was insensitive to the problem, which is totally false. As I mentioned, if GT, today is your birthday, and I know you, if I ain't tell you happy birthday personally, but I saw you to go on Facebook and so on, it comes across a little false. It's up to you to say, well, okay, Ron, give me a shout out. But the point is, if I really want to tell you happy birthday,
I will call you directly.
That's the point.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes when things do occur, we do not make a big blow up of it necessarily, simply because we are going to the root of the problem. And it speaks to our effort in terms of how we want to resolve these problems, which is to go to the root of the problem, right? The hysteria, the sensationalism only lasts for 8 days. And you can see proof of that. The fact that we are coming back here to speak about this is something genuine, because it means we're not interested in dusting it off and putting it and packing it up in a corner. We need to constantly speak about it, even when, acts of that do not occur. So as a nation, we need to ask the hard questions. An 18-year-old in an abusive relationship at that stage is a question that we must personally and publicly ask, because what we want at the end of the day is solutions. Why? How come? What led to that? What were the events, maybe even prior, which ended up to that? And again, continue to extend our deepest condolences to the family and the friends of both victims in recent times. But again, this is a cause for concern, and it has been ongoing. And as a nation, we need to confront it and see how best we could stop.
The conversation of crime continues to dominate, in all corners in Grenada today. Not only via social media, but you speak to individual by the street side and talking about crime.
Right.
Is the increase in crime, or the rise per se, I won't say an increase, but a bit of a rise that you see in crime, is this a perception or is this reality in your take?
Well, crime is actively ongoing, and I would be a hypocrite to pretend that more violent crimes never occurred in the past. You could recall when someone walked into a police station with a bucket of heads, unfortunately, and again, condolences to those family members. I didn't hear anybody cry for justice then. So we can't be selective only when something hits home or it's somebody we know or a popular person. So I think that to me needs to be addressed. That's one. And two, the occurrence, because I wouldn't say it's an increase or a rise there. I don't have any direct evidence to suggest that today crimes are more prevalent than they have been in the past. I could recall once where there were a week of killings, all right, young women. First one started with somebody in a garbage bin and all these other things and so on. And so they were just things in suitcase. So there were years when these things, they spike. But what I want to pivot from is to say that as a nation, when we talk about advancing, these things do occur. I think squarely the police, RGPF, will have the responsibility. Again, we talked at our last program about the mindset of a criminal and so on, and potentially how they see the world. They don't see it in the terms that a positive, upright citizen will see it. And so what we need to do is to continue working with and empowering and collaborating with the RGPF to be able to manage crime and criminal activity. And so the community policing, we need to enhance more of that. And we need more understanding, tolerant, well-rounded police officers to be able to know how to respond effectively. Sometimes you can't yourself physically go and show up to a community because it may cause this one saying only when this person call you're showing up and so on. So you have to look at these situations in the right light. I couldn't really speak for the RGPF, but I could well imagine that constantly they get all sorts of phone calls about all kinds of things, and people essentially crying out to say they don't want to do criminal things, but if this continues happening, you have issues with land disputes, a number of things that could contribute sometimes to the violence, to the crime occurring. And then you have the other ones which or assisted in some instances externally, those whole issue, the drugs, the gun violence, etc., in terms of it coming in to Grenada through our porous port system. This is something that we have to address. And as government, we continue to talk about it, continue to understand it, continue to discuss and see how we could come up best with solutions. And I want to probably close on this point that none of the solutions that will be put forward today will magically get rid of crime. All right. And so we have to be realistic as a society, as a nation, in terms of when we're talking about combating crime, the nature of the crime. In some countries, they investigate these things, they do research and development, try to get into criminals' head to see how they could either prevent the next one from occurring or altogether hold one that might be occurring as we speak. So you have to understand that these things, especially sexual crime, we have the SVU, Special Victims SVU, Special Victims Unit. We probably need to expand and bolster that with some more powers and maybe even extended or expanded staff to be able to combat some of these issues. But it's an ongoing conversation that one administration or the other would not be able to resolve by themselves.
Do you mentioned, of course, community policing, that sort of tickled my mind just a little bit. Mm-hmm. Do you see a concern where we need to enhance, probably, from an administration, and of course we know all these sectors should not have too much of we don't want the politicians too much involved.
That's correct.
With the police and stuff, even though there's a role that they have to play.
Yes.
But do we see a way of which an enhancement of the community policing to say?
Yes.
Is there a form of a breakdown there that we see in that folks thinking, well, the unavailability of police in that particular community and so forth are causing these
right.
These particular.
But I don't agree it's a breakdown. What I would say is that there's always room for improvement in anything that we do. So there's always room to enhance community policing. The RGPF, I can speak of today, meaning this era, is doing a good job to continue building on the relationships that they have at the level of the community. It can only go so far, and it should only go up from here in a sense, meaning that we should continue building good relationships with the police and the community. This will help to enhance greatly just the overall safety and spirit to which we hold very dear, particularly when it comes to our tourism product. And so this is why I say generally the issue and element of crime is a cause for concern, domestic, but generally we do our best generally to keep things pretty managed and safe. So yes, the room for improvement is always going to be welcomed, and I could well imagine that RGPF is always going to be coming up and discussing strategies to enhance its capabilities, particularly fighting crime at the community level. And so the relationships that are necessary to be built, I am confident that they are going to be able to build it. And from the level of national security, the support is 100%. 100%. Yeah.
Do you think there's something that is a cause in this particular spike we've seen? I mean, in the last 3 weeks or so, on a constant level, every other day, this spike in crime, that's like it's not too out of control, I would say. But what do you think is really that cause of what is enhanced that spike that we've seen, especially in various communities around?
Well, we may have to look at the data, but what I would say is that it ranges from a number of different things. You have, in some instances, gun violence. And just, again, we want to commend the RGPF because they were able to, maybe within 24 hours, 48 hours or so, charge someone for the shooting which occurred in the Montu community very recently. And so it occurs. We are not naive to that fact at all. And at best, sometimes we need to minimize, limit, ensure that we are not creating the environment for crime to thrive in a way that it spirals out of control. But by and large, I can't really speak to what might be causing either gun violence, either crime, etc. And I wouldn't say there's a breakdown because, as I mentioned, you have laws, you have due process, but crime still occurs.
So true. We need, of course, we drew for a break. Let's take it. When we come back, of course, listeners and viewers will be right back, of course, with more of the conversation. Stay with us to the point. Classic Radio, GBN TV. We'll be right back.
Camahorn Boat, a powerful multimedia production presented at Carafesta 15, written and directed by Chris DeRiggs. One big performance only at the Grenada Trade Center on Saturday, 7th March at 7 p.m. The Camahorn Boat is the ship of state, Grenada sailing to its destiny. The Camahorn Boat is a call for unity, an exciting story about patriotism played out by Grenada's best acting talents, featuring Samuel Ogilvy, Robert White, Debbie Gilchrist, Bianchi Toussaint, Dillian Walters, and others. Come out and join us in celebrating our Grenadianness on Saturday, 7th March, 7 p.m. at the Grenada Trade Center. Admission almost free. Advance tickets are $50, $65 at the door. Your ticket outlets: Giddens Pharmacy Grand Anse, Art and Soul Bookstore, Spiceline Mall, Mitchell's Pharmacy Grand Anse, 3B's Shoe Store, downtown St. George, and other places. Bring out the entire family and enjoy a wonderful evening of Grenadian theater on 7th March at Grenada Trade Center, 7 p.m.
Grenada from April 4th to the 6th, 2026. A decision you'll never regret. This isn't just any destination. It's where passion meets performance. Welcome to the 53rd Carifta Games, hosted at the iconic Kirani James Athletic Stadium in St. George's, under the theme, Passion Drives Performance. The best of the Caribbean's junior athletes will compete in electrifying track and field competition. Organize now and be part of an experience like no other, where talent, passion, and perseverance come alive on the land of 100,000 Jab Jab. Feel the passion, celebrate the performance, and create memories that will last a lifetime in pure Grenada, the land of warmth, spirit, and unstoppable energy. Welcome to the 53rd Carifta Games. Whenever happy to see me, nobody is strangers. One big family.
My name is Dr. Abigail Noel, and I am the head of department at the Accident and Emergency Department. One thing I love about Mount Sinai is their spirit of collaboration. They came in with ideas that have transformed our department in real time. The implementation of ID bands for every patient that comes through the emergency department. That has decreased patient errors. They have implemented defibrillators on every ward. Thus far, 128 staff members have been trained in defibrillator use. The huddle system is basically small meeting with all team members. It improves communication between staff members as well as with patients. This transformation means everything to the emergency department and by extension the health system of Grenada.
Welcome back to our listeners. Welcome back, viewers, once again. It's To The Point. It's Wednesday. It's the 25th day of February 2026. We're on Redhead this morning, and of course, we're in for a bit of an open conversation this morning here on today's program. Not particularly any particular, conversation focus or topic focus this morning. Is a bit of an open conversation we're having this morning. All right, I want to grab your views on this. We know the situation that's taking place in Cuba right now.
Right.
With the lack of fuel and the lack of electricity and all of these things. What is the concern of the government in relation to that, especially towards? We did hear from the ambassador that it's not a worrying situation much, especially for our students. But I know there are still some concerns that will suddenly pick up from time to time as government per se. What are some of the concerns of the government in relation to that?
Well, as relates to the situation there, Ministry of Foreign Affairs is best placed to respond to it. However, the immediate concern of government has a lot to do with the question of ensuring that we have an evacuation plan for our students and Grenadians living in Cuba at this time, and potentially that any worsening of the situation, that we are on top of it and monitoring. So rest assured, it is something that we are monitoring at this stage. The evacuation plan has been developed. The ambassador is in touch with the necessary people back in Grenada who he needs to be in touch with. That's Ambassador Glen. And they remain in contact potentially for any escalation, so to speak, of the deterioration of the situation there. But in principle, and in all fairness, I think they continue to do as they ought to. We cannot negotiate for and on behalf of any one individual country. And so I can't speak to the Cuban efforts there. But what I would say is that the situation is something that we continue to monitor for the safety of our students and our Grenadians living in Cuba at this time.
Okay, good. I just wanted to get your views on it, because it's those conversations sometimes we hear minimal about on regular. True. Except something maybe come across the news or so. We hear something on an international news that speaks in reference it, but we hear very limited conversation on that from time to time. True. The one of the other topical concerns we hear, so we hear limited about it, but the oil and gas situation in Grenada. What is the progress? How's progress going on with that right now?
So first off, I want to commend the administration. I think they have done an excellent job to raise the consciousness of Grenadians around the question of oil and gas first and foremost, and having coming into government, one of the things that was clear on the mind of the Honorable Prime Minister was that we need to find out what's going on with it, and if we do have resources that the nation can exploit, we need to get it exploited to benefit Grenada. And so he was keen on developing the technical working group, which has now held, I think they held at least 2 public consultations and updates on what is going on. They were in receipt recently of some critical information for it. At this point, we are now engaging in the conversation, having delimited boundaries with Trinidad and Tobago. We are now certainly engaging in the conversation about delimitations with Venezuela, another close neighbor in the oil and gas space, or so to speak, Grenadian waters. And so the conversation is ongoing. Probably what we can do is to get a member or 2 of the technical working group in future to appear either on GBN or to give an update nationally on things that are happening as it relates to that. But they are actively working. They are actively doing and fulfilling their mandate to be able to get this to a respectable level where investments, arrangements, negotiations. So what I do know, the last thing I do have is that the public bids or tenders were sent out for companies to bid to do potential investments. There were some blocks that GBG held,
Yes.
I can't speak to all the details of it, but it's an ongoing effort by the technical working group. And as I mentioned, they will be best poised to give a comprehensive update on where we are today, but they have done so by giving comprehensive updates through town hall meetings prior, just recently last year.
Okay, great. I mean, I guess Grenadians will be happy to know that.
No, it's some positive news. And I think, GT, you mentioned that these conversations, we don't have enough of it. This is something, honestly, that I probably would like to raise. Often it's a lot of the sensationalism and the 8 days topics that seem to get the most likes and attentions and so on, just for the sake of it, because people like to be able to say, I say something on this particular matter. But the things that really help and could help develop our country for the long term, we don't have enough of that. So, for example, if you ask any average Grenadian, what should Grenada look like in the next 100 years? They certainly would not be able to give you a comprehensive response. But I can tell you, if you say to them, what do you think, let's take a soca artist or somebody doing something, what do you think is their thing? Oh, no, he does sing good, this one doesn't sing good, and they start and so on. So sometimes the quality and the level of conversation that we are having as a nation, if we're talking development, is a lot left to be desired. As a nation, we like too much hearsay, and we believe in what somebody else tells us rather than going to the source for information. I am saying that as far as I know, we are not having enough critical conversations around development in our society, and I think we need to have more as a society. We love to enjoy ourselves, if it's one thing, but Grenadians. But in terms of serious conversations, I'm not talking about when it's time to bash somebody and say what this person say, they didn't agree with it and so on. We love to disagree. But it's time we come together and have genuine conversations that can develop. Oil and gas is certainly one. And when we talk about the hospital that is coming on stream. So, for example, the government Ministry of Information, they have designated the month of March as the month of healthcare in the country. Right? Why they are doing so, and they started the conversation on DMs with the PM with the Minister of Health. He was able to give a update to the nation through Parliament recently in terms of the amount of medical stations that will be under renovation and upgrade. And this is critical to help supporting healthcare, not just from the general hospital standpoint, but at the community level, because part of the challenge is that there is an overburdening, so to speak, of the general hospital when it comes to the administration of healthcare. And we need to diversify the capacity of the community medical stations to be able to handle some of these emergencies. And they may be able to do that if we begin the upgrade, and of course if we statutarize the general hospital services and make the workforce a bit more dynamic and robust, so that the hiring, getting auxiliary staff and so on board, filling the positions will be much easier rather than within the sphere of the public service. Public service has its own rules, mechanisms, and it has its limitations. And so that's part in it. When it was created, they could tell you it was created for maybe just about 50 or so public servants. Today we have thousands. So the problem is becoming unmanageable. And in order to manage it, statutarization on one end is deliberate effort that this administration is using to be able to fix the problem.
We have seen statutorization taking place in Grenada. In numerous sectors has gone statutorized. Some has performed well. Some may not have been performing too well. Healthcare is critical, you know that. And statutorizing healthcare in Grenada is something that may be concerning to a lot of individuals.
Right.
In terms of, one, cost. We are a small country. Or do you think, as a government, and I'm assuming a lot of thought has been put into this. Maybe one of the reasons it has not fully been implemented fully as yet, because a lot of thought have to go into this, especially when to leave this up to a board or a body to run. You understand? Do you think that's the best decision government are making with that?
Right. I can't just sit here and be naive. I wouldn't say it's a perfect decision, but I'm saying in the context of what we have right now, the challenge with the health system definitely is one of the management of the health system. So if it is in the public's purse and management is the issue, the best thing to do is to start getting private sector standards of management involved. And how you do that is statutorization, right? You convert it into a statutory board. And remember, it's not going to be a board and a law unto itself. There will be a legislation which governs it, and the legislation, I am told, is already there. It just has never been implemented. And so what we are going to see out of that is a better management system and structure. You have greater autonomy for accountability, right? And I want to stress that because I think by and large right now, to get anything resolved as it relates to labor issues with the hospital services, etc., it has to go through a set of channels, rigmarole. The red tape is good in some instances, especially where monies are concerned in terms of spending taxpayers' monies. Red tape is good there. But in terms of ensuring that you get the best quality of service, or at least you're driving that, sometimes the red tape offers unnecessary comfort, so people believe that they can just do as they please, operate substandard, function in a manner that is not productive, and then ultimately you'll see the disaster that in some instances it could cause. But I want to be clear, I am not trying to accuse staff as a problem with the healthcare, right? It's a number of things. And take, for example, the Minister of Health mentioned it only yesterday on the DMs with PMs program, that our system for procuring medication was flawed. And for many years. So I'll tell you this, while people saying we have shortage of medication, in some instances that may have been so. And the shortage were not coming because the government didn't pay or they didn't have money and so on. And part of the problem is you were relying on a manual procurement system to be able to get medication. So if you forget to get aspirin, when you go to the hospital,
why wasn't that looked into, as we would say in local conversation, early o'clock? You understand? Early enough. This administration is going into its 4th year. Previous administrations, we all know of the flaws. Everybody knows of the flaws. But I mean, talking about it now is not a remedy. So you understand?
What I could say is clearly we are acting because we are putting in a digital system now, right, which will be able to fix that. But I think we need to interrogate it, not in the sense, I'm not blaming. So let's be clear, particularly on this issue. I think what we need to discuss is why were we having shortage of medications? So that's what I'm getting at. And I'm saying that the answer that we have found was we are now implementing a new digital system to be able to correct that, so that when medication comes in, you know at which point you should begin the process of procuring, because once you reach either half or, well, I assume they'll have a percentage mark the system, and they could be able to say then we need to order this, we need to order that. So having that more modern digitized structure is going to help fix that question of the gap, 1. 2, so it will help buffer or fix, this problem of the availability of medication. 2, the issue of, again, management and how we treat with the structures at the General Hospital was critical. Emergency, for example, right? Mount Sinai have been involved, I think it's just about a year now, with the General Hospital in terms of doing that assessment. So don't get me wrong, when we assess and we say, for example, just a simple thing as washing your hands and so on, it was not being done. We are not here trying to just blame and say, the fact is it has not been done effectively for a long time. But now we're at the point where we're getting professional advice. And if you want probably a clearer understanding as to why statutorization will help the current situation here with healthcare, is that the professional private sector standard that is required to manage a general hospital is something that was lacking for a long time, because political interference, political appointments, political machinations, so to speak, was running the health system. And we had to agree that at some point this would have ultimately led to failure. So I think we're now in a better place. We're not perfect. We're not where we would like to be with healthcare, but we're in a better place now to start ruling out the solutions and getting better results.
You know, I sometimes take a little offense to it when someone has to come and tell us that we have to wash our hands. And I don't think that should have been something that we should have been.
Especially in that environment.
This stage in the world today. Yeah. I don't think a particular organization has to come in and tell us that we should know how to wash our hands. But we due for a break. Let's take it. When we come back, we get into the conversation into the final leg. In this segment also, of course, listen to viewers, if you want to chime in, of course, a question or two, feel free to do it in the segment. 4352041. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Don't touch your dial.
Athletics lovers, it's that time of the year again for the much anticipated Arisa National Athletics Championship, where champions rise. Prepare for 2 exhilarating days of speed, strength, and national pride. Join us at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium for the season's most anticipated event, Saturday 28th February to Sunday 1st March 2026. Watch as Grenada's finest athletes compete for glory in track and field. Experience record-breaking feats, thrilling finishes, and unforgettable moments. Admission, adults $20, children under 12, $10.
Hey everyone, here is an invitation to join me this and every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. on GBN Television 711 K105 FM, our Facebook page and YouTube channel for Kaiso Talk. Meet the Kaisonians, hear their stories, feel the vibes. Kaiso Talk, Wednesdays 8:30 p.m. Compliments the Grenville Credit Union.
GBN Television News at 7, a pulse on all things Grenadian. Look out for our new features through expanded synergies with our media partners in Barbados, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad, and beyond. Capturing the latest in news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Credible, informative. Thank you for making us number 1. News at 7, live, Monday to Friday on GBN Television, Channel 7 and 11. K105.5 and 105.9, Hot 98.5 and 98.7, GBN Television Facebook page and YouTube channel, and www.gbn.gd. GBN, with you anywhere and everywhere.
Looking to take your business to new heights? Advertise with GBN on our social media platforms and get noticed by our 138,000 plus followers. Reach a massive engaged audience ready to connect with your brand. No matter your business size, GBN is here to help you grow. Contact us today at admin@gbn.gd or WhatsApp 407-8458 to get started.
Welcome back to our listeners. Welcome to our viewers. I think we're going to give the opportunity to our listeners and viewers. I think we have touched on various topics this morning, and I said it was not an extensive conversation we have this morning. So we're going to give the listeners and viewers opportunity. And for starts, I would, because we do have some time to play around with, I would like our listeners and viewers to be very brief in terms of your contribution this morning. A minute and a half for the most. You say what you say so we can accommodate as many callers as possible. I know sometimes folks do get carried away in terms of what they want to say and take a very lengthy time bringing it across. So I will ask you to, may ask you in the process, of course, to wrap up. Let's go to our first caller. We lost that caller there. 435-2041. 435-2041. Then lines are open to you now. You want to call in via the WhatsApp, feel free to do that also. 435-2041. We do have a caller via WhatsApp. WhatsApp caller, you're live. Good morning and welcome. And of course, you heard what I mentioned in terms of being brief.
Pleasant good morning.
Good morning to you. Let's go, please.
Morning, Mr. Redhead, just want to say a pleasant good morning to you, as I think you're a PRO of the NBC party. Couple of things I just want to list here briefly. When I look in at government coming for the next election, who am I going to vote for? I have you and I have your opponent. Now, what I'm going to be judging your vote on is a policy basis. Although your opponent has just come into the ring, but the new National Party has been there for some time. Now, the policies that impact me, I should say, I have a niece that's on the Imani program, immigration, benefiting from the raising salary. My nieces and nephews who's benefiting from that school program and the free school feeding. And also, I have a brother who's in the police force who's benefiting from the pay and grade that your government has offered. And also, I am looking forward to see, I know you have done a lot within the community to prove yourself as just coming in as a newcomer. I would like to see the Willis Road in short order. I know you all spoke about it. I would like to see that get done in short order. So for me, I'm just putting it out here and I'm putting you on notice because politicians have to know how we roll right now. And this is young person talking, a young person speaking. When it comes to that next general election, this next general election for me, and I will tell others, it has to be on a policy basis for me. I have to look at the policies of the then government, your government, and whoever is coming in. You have to come good with people with good policies. We've gone out the days, as Marco Rubio has said, the world is experiencing a change. Whether you all like it or not, it's change. And the change is you people as politicians has to come to we the people with good policies, and we have to feel it. As how I have been telling you now, I am feeling it. I'm seeing it. And anyone else coming through, they have to give me good policies or come good and show me where your policies has benefit, whether it is not. It's a grenade on a hole, because I may not need materials, I may not need any other assistance from you all, but indirectly, the policies that the government put in now, I could see the benefits from my family and as it goes along. So thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you. And thanks for staying within the stipulated time.
Yeah, I think it's a good observation the caller is making. In fact, GT, this is something that we in the National Democratic Congress is going to be firm and call for. We need national debates. We need to hear what is the plan. It's not just brango and come and make some old talk on a political platform, but we need substance. And part of the challenge, we were just talking about the quality of conversation that we were having, is that for a long time, we are just too comfortable with a politician coming and say, who is Marco Man and all these other things. And we are not seeing genuine development advances and plans being given to the people. And so ultimately, once you get into office, you believe that it's my time now, and it's just time open sepulchre just to continue with things that have gone on in the past. So, and NDC have to replace the former one and so on. We don't want to run the country like that, because the country ultimately will fail. So I think what the caller is saying is genuine, and we in the NDC certainly will continue on that path. We will put forward our plans and policy as we have done.
Okay, great. Sometimes you look at the percentage of individuals who may not have been voting, and sometimes you understand their reasons why they decided to tap out. We do have another caller. Caller, good morning to you. Welcome.
Yeah, morning, GT, and morning to the honorable representative of St. Joseph.
Honorable Ron Redhead with us this morning. Yes. Morning.
Yeah. He triggered my imagination when he said, we don't have critical conversation, critical thinking, and I want to agree with him. I think he knows me enough to know that I am one of those people who are not afraid to say what I have to say, and I don't say it out of malice. We do need, I reflect over the years, and reflecting over the years, the dominant political party of the past, I couldn't remember any time that I was elevated by a conversation, an in-depth conversation by anyone from that group there. And while I'm not trying to say that they have been with this incumbent, it would be good if we could create the atmosphere that we could have not the transactional conversation, but deep conversation, challenge people to think deeper. Like, for instance, and even to know the surrounding, know the region. Right now, we are having this head of conference meeting in St. Kitts. And even some of the announcers on the radio. It seems as though like the first time that we're having something like that. And I don't know, because we have that criminal going to that meeting, and they're talking about Marco, a criminal I regard him as. So we need to have conversations so that, for instance, we could have influenced government sitting down at the table with such a criminal. sorry to use that kind of language, but I cannot help because, I mean, if you listen to the speech this man gave in the Munich conference, you would not sit down with him. He disrespects us in every sense of the word. We don't exist. So why go sit down with him? Nonetheless, coming back to my pet concern, I know, Giti, I want to respect your wishes. The thing about it, we need to have genuine interaction with each other. We have a whole population that is ignorant of its history. For 40 years, they didn't teach history. They hide it. They didn't want people to know the truth of what is here. We need to really find a way that we could discuss our history. You know, we have March 13 coming up and so on. To discuss it in the context, what I mean, how it have helped us, how it have hindered us, in a way, not trying to point finger at people and, you know, criminalize people up at this stage so that we have genuine conversation in the ways of the existential threat we have from climate change, so that we wouldn't try to talk about climate change and talk about going into fossil fuel at the same time without feeling offended. I think that we need to have these conversations that we could really energize one another, and we don't have that because, and I agree with him, the level of conversation we have is childish, immature, infantile. We need to rise above and become adults. As Paul said, when I was a child, I behaved like a child. Now I'm an adult, I have to behave as an adult. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate your contribution there.
Deep, you know, we need more of it. Even just the teaching of the history. And I will just briefly, one of the reasons why this administration recognized October 19th, it's not because we are revolutionary and all these other things. It's because it was a part of our history and it needs to be told. Right, so I think that is critical. So we need to have more of those types of conversations.
Great. We do have another caller. WhatsApp caller, you're live. Let's hear from you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jason.
Morning, caller. Good.
I don't know if it is sheer mistakes or sheer failure or sheer incompetence, but we have had trained doctors coming out of Cuba from since about 1990. We had doctors in Grenada before. It is amazing. Your host indicated that somebody from another country, blue eye, has to come and tell us to wash hands. We have an ad indicating that for the first time we're able to have ID bans when ID bans has been in place for over 25 years in a very serious way throughout the world. We need to wake up and we need to realize that our people need to do what they need to do. I'm certain that the people in the medical field have been trained to ID patients very early and to wash hands. And in some cases, not to walk the street with a uniform because they can bring in pathogens that would not be good for the institutions of health, be it the community health centers or the hospital. And another few issues. What is the status of the investigation with the failed shrimp farm project? Government is a continuum. We need to get the answers. From who said there is an investigation, there must have been a person or a team responsible for that. Going further, today is day 56. Fishermen are unable to export their fish. What is the government doing? We know where the blame lies. It lies since 2017, people not doing their work. But how can we solve a problem by using the same method? There must have been people that were communicated with, either by phone, or by email, or by text, or by meetings, based on what is out there in the public. People within the U.S. Embassy reached out to people in Grenada. But for one reason or the other, we are protecting those persons, not identifying them. They can't solve our problem if they created it. So, brother, we have an opportunity to look for alternative markets, but we're not hearing much. There is an opportunity also from that ban that you can train fishermen in HACCP if they're not going out to fish. You can train them in cooperative education, in management of the business, but we're not hearing that. We're not seeing that on the ground. And then finally, we have all the representatives for St. Mark talk about the jetty. Well, based on a drawing that I saw, the picture that I saw, basically it was packing stone, reclaiming land. There was no idea of any jetty for Walton. However, We need to make sure that the fishermen who are struggling and fighting to get their fish in calm and rough waters at Walton, that they get a jetty. It's not too much to give them a $4 million project. They're paying taxes. Persons in St. Mark are paying taxes for their property. The goodness should not only be elsewhere. In the New Grenada, which is the tongue of St. George and South St. George, we need to spread the money elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you there. Also, solid contribution. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to people doing their work. I often try to make it very respectful, but there are times that I am very uncomfortable with the slow pace at which the public service mechanism or machinery functions. And it is not to lay blame on any one individual, but it's to say that if we have problems, the solutions often takes too long. Some people always have a problem for a solution. So I'm saying that we need to rise above that as a society. And if we are having more elevated conversations, deep conversations, then, solutions, all these other things, understanding and performance will be greatly improved. But we need that conversation to have. Caller, you're live. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, JT. How are you today?
Doing great. Let's hear you. I beg of you to be brief, please. Huh?
Yeah. Ron, two things. I think it's time that they can bring you back into this cabinet because you're a valuable person. But what I just want to say quickly, because you know who I am. I am a proud member, foundation member of the NDC party. I built that party from day one. And I know you contributed and your father too, so I can speak. Ron, since last election, you all have been saying the color of the party is yellow. And I see this thing all about the place. Code is yellow, color is yellow. When we formed the party in 1987, the party's color was red. The color was patterned and mirrored after the national flag, which is red, green, and gold. I know sometimes people mistake it yellow for gold, but it's two different things. Last time when you all had the rally, your section was the nearest to it. Yeah, it wasn't yellow, it was a kind of gold, and I was so impressed. So I am saying to you, as a foundation member who struggled with that party from day one and was there in 1987, the color of the party is gold. So I think it's time that you all get it right. And it's the same thing I say with the national flag too. Everybody yellow, green, and yellow, green, and red. It is not yellow. So please, in your capacity as the public relations officer and in my capacity as a foundation member who built the party for what it is today, the color of our party that we chose was gold, mirrored after the national flag and not yellow. So I trust that you'll get it right. And let me repeat again, it's time that they can bring you back in cabinet because you are invaluable person. You have a good contribution to make. And I listen to you in Parliament and you know something wrong, I have to tell you straight away. Every time I listen to you in Parliament, you remind me of Maurice Bishop. I don't know if people just tell you that. Some of the things you say, you talk like Maurice, the beard, and how you have your reaction. So all the best, but please get it right. My party, who I built, is yellow.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your contribution. I think that's a good thing to be.
Sister Yvonne, don't worry, she's a friend. Point noted. We'll certainly look into it and try to make sure that we could make the correction if it is a problem.
All right, we do have another caller. Caller via WhatsApp. You're live. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Ron. How you doing, sir?
Morning. Good caller.
All right, nice program. This is my first time.
Welcome.
I just want to say the caller before, not this caller now, Miss Anne-Marie, concerning the nurses at the general hospital, and even it must be the general hospital, it could be all the different hospitals, right? And I think these nurses and them should be leaving the uniform at wherever they dress at the hospital and take out the uniform. Because sometimes you have to come on the public buses with people, you come out from the hospital, sometimes you might come out and do certain work, and you never know you could be bringing germs or diseases home, And this is quietly clear, you know what I'm saying? I think this should be something that the government should be looking into, let the nurses and them look into certain things where they could leave the uniform at work and wash it, you know. So this is my contribution. But very good program, gentlemen.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. Appreciate your call.
Yeah. Thanks. So again, it goes back to the point, knowledge is about knowing what to do and, not just having it.
All right. We do have another caller. Caller, you're live. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, G, and good morning to
Good morning to you, sir. Go right ahead, please. And be brief as
morning, caller.
Speak about the hospital, sir, and just 2 weeks ago, we had no gas in the hospital. I'm saying that. Why would a country borrow over $300 million US to build a new building, and they cannot buy gas for a simple little hospital? That's one point. My second point is that you say IME, right? You're selling our passports or patrimony. There is agents that sell our passports in this country. I would like to know how much agents we have and what is the percentage on the dollar. Example, we say we make about over $2 billion in selling passports. If we have 15% of $2 billion, it's $300 million. I'm saying that if the agents are making so much money and selling our passports, we need to know who is making that money and what they're doing with that money. Have a nice day, sir.
Thank you, caller. Appreciate your point.
Yeah, thanks, caller. So, as it relates to the first point in terms of the gas, what I would say is that, look, shortage, I think we spoke about the procurement system. That has been something that we have been able to begun rectifying. As it relates to the comparison, shortage of gas versus building a new teaching hospital, it's much more than just the hospital for its one-off service. We are seeking to create a medical village to make Grenada into a medical tourism hub.
All right. We do have another caller. WhatsApp caller, you're live. Good morning. Welcome.
Hey, GT, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir. And be brief, please.
Family, good morning.
Yeah, morning. Caller.
Okay, a quick question, right? Okay, last night we had the State of the Union, in the United States with the president. And then he did not mention Cuba is one, right? But today we heard that the Secretary of State of the United States, which is Marco Rubio, will be meeting with CARICOM leaders. Okay, my question to you, I want to know that if we have any plans of a delegation to meet with Marco Rubio, especially with the fisher inbound and things like that, and then we know about the visa restriction that was on one of our ministers and other things and also we know about the upgrade. So that my question is just to know that if we have any meeting with the Secretary of State before he leaves. Have a good day, Ron. Always a pleasure to see your family.
Thank you.
So I would have to allow the Minister of Foreign Affairs, when they return, to give the comprehensive update. At this point, I would not want to prejudice anything by saying yea or nay. So I'll allow the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to give.
That's understandable. We do have another caller. Caller, live. Good morning.
Good morning, GT, and morning to your guest, Ron Redhead.
Good morning, sir.
In 1990 to 95, the National Democratic Congress government then, led under Nicholas Brathwaite, did a number of essential things that propelled this country. In 2008, a similar thing happened under Tillman Thomas. Now we are with, and in those two elections, those two periods, NDC was not re-elected. One of the main reasons I believe, and it is documented, that NDC does not promote what they're doing. And I'm seeing a similar situation occurring now with this present administration. What can you do as the PR of the party in terms of getting information from all of the different ministries? Because I know the government is doing a lot, structurally and otherwise, a lot, putting a lot of system in place that will be able to propel this country in the next couple of years. But the population, in my view, is not fully aware on what are the implications of those decisions that are being made now. What is your party doing? And you as the PR of the NDC, what are you doing in terms of garnishing all of those information, compiling it, and distributing it out there? Because we know close to the election, if you come and you give those information, people will see that you're trying to win them. Why not pass out information on now so that people can assess your ability to continue running this country? My suggestion is that those information be gathered and it is distributed out there so that people know the benefits of those things that are being done now and how it will impact them in the future. Thank you and have a good morning.
Thank you, caller. Appreciate your call.
Thank you, caller, and we'll continue doing our best to improve that. All right.
We do have another caller, and that will be our final caller for this morning. Caller via WhatsApp. You're live. Good morning. Welcome. WhatsApp caller, you're live. Good morning.
Yeah, I'm just calling to say a lot of Grenadian or Caribbean people just ask a lot of stupid question now.
I don't think there's anything as a stupid question, right? I don't think so, but go ahead.
Well, okay, I enjoy the word stupid question. I enjoy the word, right? It's a little. Sometimes we ask questions we shouldn't ask. For example, if Marco Rubio coming to CARICOM meeting in St. Kitts, it is common sense to know that fishing is going to come up, taking in deportee going to come up, why the gunboat running up and down the Caribbean, drugs and all them things, and the Cuban issue going to come up. So asking an MP that on a program doesn't make sense because there must be some diplomatic talk between CARICOM government and the American before Marco Rubio come. Maybe I will ask a question. What is it our CARICOM leaders could negotiate with the Americans in this geopolitical crisis? Because we could only talk as we progressive left and all them things. But talk cannot change that because we have no modern technology to fight with U.S. imperialism. So what I'm looking at with that meeting now is what CARICOM countries could negotiate with the United States because we weak. And let us face the facts. Prayers cannot stop American gunboat from running up and down the Caribbean. Or criticizing the American won't stop it. We got to have a diplomatic solution. That's my point.
Thank you, caller. Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. That was our final caller for the morning.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I agree with the caller. I'm 100% in terms of position, but I wouldn't say that, you assume that everybody would know what is to happen. But this is our role as public officials to educate, to inform, to update, and to give information.
All right. There's one question from someone via WhatsApp. I will ask you as a final question. Someone is asking, and they say, I'm keeping it short. Is the government sending back human doctors? Mm-hmm. Why? They will be, if they are, and who will be replacing them?
Right. So at this point, no. And again, I want to leave it up to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who will give a comprehensive update as it relates to the Cuban mission and issues surrounding that.
Okay. Everyone, I want to, of course, thank you a whole lot for being here as usual. It's always a pleasure having you on the program. It was a bit short notice, so you're being here this morning, but thank you for filling in. And anything in closing?
Well, yes, just to say that the program being here, I had to put up a visit this morning, so I hope people understand sometimes when I say I do apologize. It's not me deliberately not coming, but I am going to the field there following this program here, and I look forward to engaging constituents as regular.
Until we do this again, it's a pleasure as always. Have a good day. What's left of it?
Yes,
all right. Hey, folks, that's it. We're going to take a wrap for today's edition of To The Point. I want to thank all who contributed. Have a good one, folks. That's why I say goodbye.